Hey, Nick Thomas here with InfoSecSync at the 10th Annual National Cyber Summit in Huntsville, Alabama.
And I am Kevin Cedeno with ISAC at Huntsville.
And today we're talking to Josh Crumbaugh with PeopleSec. He's the CEO and CISO. He's a keynote public speaker. He's a security awareness expert and an awesome social engineer. And he's all about human security. So welcome, Josh.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little about your company and what you do for your customers.
So, PeopleSec is a human-centric cybersecurity firm. Obviously, it stands for People Security, but we've sort of reinvented human security awareness training from the ground up. So, whereas others really focus heavily on education to address the phishing problem and come up with a solution that would actually address the root cause of many of our cybersecurity issues, what we did was we focused more on behavioral modification. And bringing artificial intelligence into the training in order to make sure that every single user gets a unique and individualized experience.
That's awesome.
Like, if I know that my system learns that you're susceptible to like some specific type or category of phishing,
like I like Comic-Con or something like that, and you'll send me a...
Yeah, and it's going to start sending you more and more of specifically what you're susceptible
Stuff that I like.
And it's the exact same with our education. So we figure out what you need, we adapt as we go, and you get only the exact amount of content at the time you need it. So if you're a chronic clicker, as we like to call them, then you're going to get an insane amount of content until you stop clicking. And it's just really cool. Everyone has a risk. They know you. We tell them like, hey, you're high, medium, or low risk every month. And like they even compete. Like we have one client, they just created the PeopleSec Awards. And so like they're using all this really cool data that we collect about their human security to actually like create bonuses and stuff. So it's really cool. We've been effective at stopping malware at all of our clients. Within 4 months, malware is almost completely eliminated simply by changing user behavior, and it's what everyone said couldn't be done, and so we're really, really excited, especially being here because this is our hometown where we're based out of, and things are really, really taking off.
So if we can think of a traditional a program, right, it will be somewhere around almost like a carpet bombing. You just send it out to everybody. It's the same thing. It's easy to spot. Once one user gets it, they can just tell everybody else, hey, don't click on this, right? But this is more like a smart bomb.
Yeah, it is, and you're not necessarily getting it at the exact same time. It's all like on your schedule. So when you get it, most of the time, and there's a slight chance somebody else gets the same one at the same time, but 99.9% of the time, you're the only one in the organization that got that fish. So go ahead and tell everybody.
Wow, that's
interesting.
Very, very unique approach. So tell me a little bit about the training part, because I know that you said that you guys don't. Your focus is not really the training. However, there's still some training that needs to happen, right? Especially at the executive level.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, in fact, that's one of our things. We're always rolling out more training to address these other areas, and executives are one of the weakest areas in most companies. The reason is they don't typically understand cybersecurity, and because of that, they sort of follow. And what is the job of a CEO? It is to lead. And so because they follow and they don't understand cybersecurity, they're not having the difficult discussions with their CISOs, and their CISO isn't going to bring up these difficult discussions. And so we actually do this training around, or specifically for executives, to help them understand what they need to know, very, very high level, not getting into the details. But most importantly, we developed this, what we call Kill Index, it's a formula that tells them exactly how to measure the effectiveness of each and every one of their tools year over year, so that they can know if what they're doing is working. But the numbers are pretty simple if you look at it. I mean, it's much more complex than this, but if you're spending more money and you're having more malware incidents in your network, you did something wrong that year. You're not investing, wisely, and so it's designed to help them like get out of this spending where, it's sort of blind. And so in most companies, as I look at it, 90% of their problem is people, but they spend 5% of their budget on it. And then they wonder why they're failing. And so we sort of are addressing that from an executive level and helping them lead correctly and helping them understand things like, what is compliance? Well, it's not the finish line, it's the starting line. And so, we're really doing a lot there. It's been very successful. We've just had rave reviews, and like every time we give it the training, we get countless referrals, and just the schedule fills up even more.
So Josh, you were talking about leadership, and actually a lot of the keynotes and a lot of the speakers here are talking about that's the main issue. Leadership doesn't know, and they're not involved. And you're mentioning a lot of numbers. Are you able to help leadership and tell them, hey, this is who's clicking on these? What's the percentage of people clicking on them? What age group? Who's doing it, etc.?
Absolutely, and so it's really cool. So we're looking at like department, type of employee. Are you remote? Are you like in the office? And so we're actually collecting metrics around who are the more susceptible people within the organization.
So you're drilling down
and,
then.
Yeah, how much data we have is completely dependent on the client. So some clients give us age demographics, sex, income. We can get very granular, and so then when they do it, sort of custom build a dashboard for every single, or an analytics portal for every single user based on the data that they gave us. So no, they can deep dive in. They'll see, hey, your developers are susceptible to business operations phishes. That's their most likely thing they're going to click on. Or hey, they're very susceptible to security related phishes. Or sales is very susceptible to social media style. And so they have this deep insight into all of their employees. Each and every one has this risk associated with it. It gets updated once a month. So like our systems, we can articulate, okay, this is a high, medium, low risk system. We're doing that with the users and giving you deep insight into the data.
And you're able to tailor that information towards your security training program or awareness program?
Yeah, and we're expanding into so many other areas too, because one of the heavily underserved markets or areas that's we're in above executives and phishing awareness, incident response. It is a nightmare most of the time when there is a major incident, the first 7-figure incident. They're all learning on the job. They don't have a clue. They're pulling out the manual, if they have a manual, to read it, and no one knows what they're doing. And so we're taking our platform, our adaptive platform, and deploying a lot of role-based training as well. So like as opposed to a once a year, we're gonna have a tabletop exercise. Right. It's ongoing all year long. You go through, from your personal perspective, 4 different scenarios of varying degrees of, intensity for the breach, and they go through 4 different scenarios during the course of the year. And so one of the problems with tabletop is you're not going to get everybody there. You might have the head of the help desk there, but you may not have all of the help desk employees. And by deploying it through email, we're now able to get everybody involved. And so we have part of that training. There's a role for the publicity people. There's a role for the attorneys. Yep. There's a role for the incident commander.
That's
There's
the way you got to do
for
it.
Everybody, and it adapts based on their knowledge too. So as we go, we keep quizzing them. We learn what they know, what they don't know,
and you help them update their playbook, basically, really.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because regulation, for example, 800-171 and DFARS, right? It does call out for role-based training. Unfortunately, most of the traditional training programs stop at 1 or 2 levels.
Yeah.
It's either you're a user or you're a privileged user.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really help a lot of people, right? So what kind of changes have you seen, once a company gets all this data and they start analyzing it, what kind of operational and technical changes do you see them do?
Oh, so, we're still reimagining what can be done with this data every day and coming up with new things. One that I really liked is one of my companies will segregate off all of their risk users onto an isolated VLAN. Every month they're updating who's in that isolated VLAN, and so they don't have a lot of access.
We have segmentation, almost going to a zero trust model there, right?
Yes, because they have data to know who their problem users are now, and they can use that data to help minimize their risk. And so that's one cool thing that we've seen done with the data. We also saw one company, they're giving out awards and actually basing their bonuses around security awareness. And so they're using that data for that, and it's really effective. They have had 0 phish clicks now for 4 months, and we're talking spear phishing.
So money talks.
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's not just that. in terms of like phishing, so many companies they're looking at it from like a very binary perspective, and humans are anything but binary, right? So they say, well, did they click yes or no, and they'll send maybe 4 phishes a year, which just is not enough, and so they're getting no real insight. Okay, some people clicked. What does that mean though? So do you have any like insight into that data? And so by having that additional insight, we can do what I call like planting human virus definitions. So that's why we sort of have this adaptive phishing model or phishing tool, and so it just will use artificial intelligence to hit them where they're most susceptible. But the beauty of it is we've found that people, after they saw a phish from the good guys, are 70% less likely to fall for a similar phish in the wild. And so we see it as constantly updating the virus definitions, and then we're able to, with this data, help them monitor their employees too. So, somebody has this major life change and all of a sudden they're distracted and they become a security problem even though they were always super secure before. And so with constant phishing, you're able to identify that as soon as it happens and react. And you can be the one that finds it instead of the bad guys. It's almost like most departments, they just assume have the bad guys be the only people that are in their user's inbox. I feel like we need to be in the user's inbox too, because the bad guys are already there.
So obviously, that speaks about how humans are susceptible, the most susceptible when change is happening, right? So something in their life happens, that's when they're most susceptible. What kind of changes have you seen in order to prevent fatigue?
So, well, the way we do it is users are very well aware that they're going to get less content, less phishing, less of everything. And this is across the board with all of our different training operations. It's not just security awareness, but they're going to get less if they're doing a great job. And so we also track every month they stay in a low-risk group. And we have this with one of my favorite features. It's the relapse score. So if we identify that after 5 months, you're going to forget, at 4 months in, we proactively increase your risk, increase the frequency, increase the amount of phishing.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Very customizable.
Hey Josh, tell the viewers and listeners here what you're doing at the Cyber Summit.
So I have a number of talks. You're local when you have 3 talks at an event.
You're very wanted, so that's good.
So, but I gave a talk yesterday called How to Rob a Bank Over the Phone. It's a red team social engineering talk. Definitely, everyone loves this talk. I gave it a black hat earlier this year and realized this is probably going to be a talk I need to give in more than one place because I'm a little nervous. I'm sharing real social engineering audio. And I don't know, I was very nervous to give the presentation, but I did, and now, I've been flying all over Europe, giving keynotes ever since. Everyone wants to hear this talk, and so I doubt it's going away anytime soon, but it's a fun one. And then after that, we had a panel on human insecurity, and I was lucky enough to have some just incredible co-panelists there. We had Alex Hyde from Security Scorecard. He's their I think Chief Research and Development Officer, but he's one of the founders of it. Brilliant person, just brilliant. And then we had Jason Canillo from Focal Point Security.
Focal, right.
Yeah, and so it was just this really cool sort of almost hacker perspective on human security type panel. And then today I am giving a talk on the top 10 epic cyber awareness fails or security awareness fails. And I forget the exact title that I gave it, but basically this is my research that I've been pouring my life into, and this is everything we've learned about how to prevent phishing. And I can tell you, it absolutely can be done. You can stop malware by simply changing user behavior. And so I'm giving the methodologies that we found to be successful, because we're like many of the sort of commercial companies. We want to give it out open source, give it to the world. Hey, this is how we've been successful. Feel free to use it. So we're, that's what that talk's about. It's my favorite talk, but it gets a little bit nerdy on security awareness, so it's maybe not quite as popular as the Red Team social engineering one.
Yeah, everyone wants to see that one, right?
But no, this one's fun, and one of the things that we did in the research, we looked at what percentage of users create how much risk or phishing risk in an organization. Because I see so many places, hey, you can get 98% of your users to stop clicking. So I wanted to find out, does 98% have any real impact? Because it doesn't seem to be affecting malware, so why? And what we found, and I might be slightly off on these numbers, but I'm going to try and get them exact as possible. It's something like 1.23% of users in an organization account for 89% and some change of the total risk of the organization in terms of phishing.
Wow.
So if you've only got 98% to stop clicking, you've barely touched your risk.
Good numbers.
Wow, that's something to think about right there.
So I know you're all over the place, right? So where are you going to next, and what's next for you?
Social engineering, Rhode Island. Well, I'm
Okay.
doing an executive training for a big company in Chicago next week, but right after that, we have social engineering, Rhode Island. So if you want to go to Newport in the summer, it's beautiful.
Okay.
Come check it out. I'm actually the keynote there. And then directly after that, I fly out to the Netherlands, where I will be giving a series of talks, a series of keynotes actually at in The Hague. And I'm really excited about it. It's like, I mean, it's the focal point for cybersecurity in all of Europe, so it's just an amazing opportunity, and I get to work with Jaya Blue. She's one of the most brilliant people I've ever met in my life in terms of like running a good security department. So yeah, I'm excited to go over there, and I don't know what's after that. I think Hawaii. So
Oh, wow. Excellent.
Vacation.
no, ShakaCon. I'm doing a
Shaka
training
Con.
and I'm giving a talk there. So
All right.
Awesome. So want to thank you for coming out, and thanks for staying in sync with
With
InfoSecSync.
InfoSecSync.
with InfoSecSync.